Greetings, young denizens of Earth. My name is Seraph, and this is the domain of God. These were the words of a stunning angel, her voice as soothing as honey. The 29 students simply stared, dazed and utterly confused. Hovering elegantly in front of the pearly gates, she flapped her 6 wings as she radiated kindness and benevolence toward the confused bunch. She knew patience was key when dealing with these ones, considering they had been on a school bus barely seconds ago before getting transported to this mind-boggling place. It was a place brighter than daylight, despite there being no sun in sight. Clouds replaced solid ground, and the horizon seemed to stretch on endlessly. Other than a magnificent gate that stood behind her, there was nothing in sight for miles. After granting the students a few moments of silence, Seraph geared up to speak once again, but was interrupted by a barrage of murmurs from the crowd. What's going on? Where are we? Whoa, she's like an angel or something. What the hell? Did she just say the realm of God? Are we dead? The last thing I remember was that a massive truck was about to hit our bus. Please don't tell me we. The uproar was no surprise, and Seraph allowed it despite the chaos. Could anyone blame these teens? They had been on their way back from a class field trip when they were suddenly caught up in this mess. Everyone, please let's calm down. A commanding, masculine voice suddenly pierced through the chaotic space. Instantly, the room fell silent as each student recognized the voice. As the noise died down, a boy stepped forward, moving with a grace that seemed incredible for a human. I get it. We are all confused, but please, let's try to stay calm. Our questions will definitely be answered. Amid the collective unease, the students slowly nodded in agreement with the boy's words. His smile, both relatable and confident, worked like a charm, easing their worries and diffusing the tension hanging in the air. With his classmates calmed, the boy, his blonde hair swaying, strode towards the angelic figure observing the scene in silence. Excuse me, Miss Seraph, he began, addressing the angel. I'm sorry for the chaos. Could you please tell us what's happening here? Seraph smiled at the young man's question. Not only was he strikingly handsome, every inch the picture of human perfection, but he was also very polite. He seemed to be the only one who possessed the knack to properly address a celestial being like herself. Of course, she replied. Thank you, Miss Seraph, he said, bowing gently. What's your name? Seraph asked. Adonis. Adonis Levi. Adonis maintained his bow, earning a soft smile from Seraph. She found herself getting quite fond of this human. You can lift your head now, Adonis, she said, and as soon as the words left her lips, he complied. Listen up, everyone, Seraph began, capturing the attention of the nervous 28 students. Adonis, though feeling the weight of the moment, narrowed his eyes in determination. He couldn't afford to lose his composure. The fate of his classmates rested on his ability to stay calm. You were all on the brink of death, about to crash into a truck. The impact killed your driver and the teachers in the front. But just before any of you could meet the same fate, you were summoned here. The grim reality hit hard, eliciting small squeaks from some of the students. Adonis felt a lump in his throat but forced himself to remain composed. His classmates needed him to be strong. Lights and blow. Their minds involuntarily conjured gruesome images of the buses only adults reduced to a bloody mess. Don't worry. You're not dead. But if you go back, the same fate awaits death for all, Seraph continued, her calm tone belying the unsettling nature of her words. The students swallowed hard, fear gripping them as they listened. Despite Seraph's composed demeanor, her words rattled many. Fear was already settling in among the students. If I may. Adonis raised his hand, offering a respectful smile. "Oh, Adonis, go ahead," Seraph encouraged. "I just wanted to ask about the adults. I hope they didn't suffer, and I also want to express our gratitude for saving us," Adonis said calmly, once again diffusing some tension. "They should be resting well. Their souls are at peace." "There is no need to thank me," Seraph replied. "Haha. Surely you are being mo. Excuse me. I have a question." A sharp feminine voice interrupted Adonis' response, redirecting everyone's attention to the speaker. "My name is Alicia White, the class representative of our class, and if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a few things," Alicia announced, her words polite but her tone stern, not even making an effort to hide her suspicion as she fixed her narrowed gaze on Seraph. "What do you wish to know?" Seraph asked. "Firstly," Alicia began, her voice confident, "why did you save us from certain death? I find it difficult to believe that only we would be spared while our adult guardians were killed. Apologies, but I find the convenience a bit suspicious." Alicia's words were blunt, but there was no denying the validity of her question. The moment she asked it, every student found themselves silently echoing her sentiment. "She has a point. I see. Well, allow me to clarify," Seraph replied, her demeanor unwaveringly calm. "The 29 of you have been chosen for a purpose. A world in distress has summoned you to aid them. Following your briefing, you will be transported there." Her words landed like a bombshell, evoking varied reactions among the students. Some were shocked to their bones. Light's novel. Some were merely confused. A few were astonishingly trying their hardest to stifle the excitement that was clearly written on their faces. "So you didn't save us? You're simply transporting us?" Alicia's voice held a hint of disappointment, her lips forming a small frown. "Correct. That doesn't sound very benevolent. I did mention there's no need for gratitude toward me." Tension surged between Seraph and Alicia, escalating rapidly until Adonis intervened. "Please, Miss Seraph, can you tell us more about this other world and why we are being summoned there?" This question completely shifted the focus of the students who were already beginning to panic. Everyone suddenly began to get curious about this world that was in distress. Once again, Adonis had managed to steer the conversation back on track. Seraph's smile widened slightly as she shifted her gaze and glanced at him. "The world is named H-Tray, and its denizens are under a major threat from an opponent they cannot win against. In their desperation, they resorted to interdimensional summoning. You 29 were chosen because you would have died regardless, and so no viable resource was pooled from Earth." A few struggled to understand what Seraph was saying, but the meaning behind her words couldn't be any clearer. None of the students present could complain about being summoned, since they would have died anyway. Regardless of whether they chose to be appreciative, the undeniable truth remained they had been granted a second chance at life. "What kind of trouble is this world trio facing?" Once again, Alicia asked, her tone still laced with suspicion. It seemed she still held a great amount of dislike or distrust, perhaps even both, towards Seraph. "It is not my place to say. When you arrive at H-Tray, all you need will be revealed." Seraph's swift and blunt response carried a weight that seemed to ripple through the surroundings. It was evident she had reached the limit of her patience, causing an instant hush to fall upon the group. "You are all here, in this domain, for one reason and one reason alone," Seraph continued, breaking the silence. "I am to prepare you for your journey to H-Tray. It is a world filled with many unknown wonders, but also great danger. To ensure your survival as well as the fulfillment of the role of your summoning, each of you will receive skills and a class." While the words she uttered sailed over the heads of a few students, almost everyone in the room knew what skills and class entailed. You will be choosing your skills based on the karma you had just before you were brought here, Seraph added. Excuse me, but did you just say karma? As in the amount of good deeds we did in our lives? A voice from the crowd questioned, a hint of disbelief lingering in their tone. Though the voice was somewhat low, Seraph was able to hear every word. Not exactly. Every person has a maximum of 100 karma from the moment they are born, but the number decreases when you do bad deeds to others or if people see you in a bad light. In simple terms, the more likable a person was, the higher their chances of having a near-perfect karma. The opposite was also true. One after the other, you will approach me, and I will show you the list of skills and classes available to you based on your karma. Once a person has chosen a skill or class, it cannot be chosen by another. A small commotion erupted among the students, and understandably so. It was essentially a first-come, first-served scenario. Why don't we start with the three who bothered to ask questions? Adonis Levi, Alicia White, and the last one. Seraph announced. Adonis was already close to Seraph, while Alicia stood at the forefront of the rest of the students. As for the last person that was called, he was clustered among his classmates. Excuse me. Coming through, the boy grunted as he maneuvered his way out of the crowd of students around him. Many eyed him with envy, as being among the first to choose held considerable weight. When he finally made it to the front, the angelic lady shot him a quizzical look. She seemed to expect another impressive or striking individual, but instead found an overall average-looking boy. Seraph didn't linger on the average-looking boy for too long, however. Step forward, you three, she commanded. The unexpected trio, a perfectly handsome boy, a strikingly gorgeous girl, and an average nobody, stepped forward and approached Seraph. Adonis, Alicia, and, what is your name again? Seraph's eyes fixated on the boy in question, drawing the attention of many. Even Adonis and Alicia were staring at him. This unexpected attention, which the boy had never experienced before this, made him take a few seconds to compose himself before responding. My name is Ray. Ray Schuyler. A regular 16-year-old boy of average height, average build, and an overall look that blended into the crowd. He wasn't a stranger to his classmates, but he wasn't exactly the life of the party either. Grades. Nothing exceptional. Friends. A few acquaintances, but nobody close enough to call a true friend. In school, Ray embodied the essence of average. Even his, well, let's say his gear down there? Yup, average too. And truth be told, he had pretty much gotten used to that status quo after living his whole life that way. However, now that he was standing beside the two giants of his class, he was beginning to feel a little inferior, perhaps even less than average. This whole thing is a fluke. I didn't even raise my voice when I asked that question. How did I end up here? It felt surreal to be one of the first chosen to pick their skills and classes. Having played quite a few games himself, Ray knew how crucial these choices were in shaping a character's journey. Well, it's not like I was able to be more than average in gaming. Even with that knowledge, Ray thought, knowing that skills and classes in games always aimed for a balance, ensuring fairness for all players. But this wasn't a game, this was real life, where unfairness was as common as breathing. Ray was a living testament to that fact. If I can snag a solid class and a few decent skills. His thoughts drifted into a hopeful realm, a flicker of possibility shining through. Perhaps, just maybe, he could break free from the chains of his average existence. Suddenly, Seraph's captivating voice pierced through his thoughts, pulling him back to the incredible reality playing out before him. Amongst the boundless clouds, there they stood, Ray and his classmates, face to face with the stunning angel, Seraph. Her pure white countenance was accentuated by intricate golden patterns on her attire, and her wings added a divine allure to her presence. Her gleaming golden eyes held an otherworldly beauty, resembling the most precious of gems. Ray, like the rest of his classmates, found himself utterly captivated by just a single glance at Seraph. His thoughts raced as Adonis stepped forward, prompting Ray to focus keenly on the unfolding selection process. He hoped to gain some advantage by closely observing Adonis's choices for his class and skills. After all, Adonis was the class's golden boy, popular, good-looking, athletic, and genuinely kind. He effortlessly connected with everyone, including Ray, in the few conversations they'd shared. Will I really get a peek at what Adonis picks? Ray mused internally, a glimmer of hope flickering within him. But his hopes were dashed when, at the very moment Adonis reached for Seraph's hand, a blinding light enveloped them both. In that shower of light, Ray couldn't make out a thing, realizing that the same shroud of light must have obscured the view of the rest of his classmates. Damn. Guess it won't be that easy, Ray muttered in disappointment, understanding that the path ahead wouldn't be as straightforward as he'd hoped. Despite being a little disappointed, Ray was also quite relieved. This way, even his choice would not be revealed to everyone else. It would have been awkward if that was the case. Just a few seconds after the blinding light shrouded the two of them, it dissipated. Congratulations on choosing your class and skills, Adonis. You may move to my far right since you've now chosen. In just a few seconds. Maybe time moves faster within the dome of light. Ray had many questions, but he decided to observe whether it would be the same for Alicia. Adonis gracefully moved to Seraph's far right as instructed, and Alicia walked closer to Seraph for her turn. She's as pretty as always, Ray mused to himself, a soft smile forming. Alicia White was a name known to every guy in their class, if not the entire school. Regarded as the pinnacle of beauty, her long, lustrous brown hair and a face that seemed carved by the gods captivated anyone who glanced her way. But now, standing in the presence of Seraph, perceptions might shift. Alicia remained stunning, yet against Seraph's ethereal presence, her beauty seemed to pale in comparison. Despite this, she held her own charm. She earned the spot of our class representative through popular vote, Ray recalled. And she's been incredible in fulfilling her duties. Lights blow Omicron M. Ray held a genuine fondness for Alicia, liking her as a person. Her inquisitive nature and persistence while questioning Seraph had earned Ray's admiration. He wasn't obsessively crushing on her or anything, but he definitely thought very highly of her. I bet Bill still sees her as a goddess. He's been crushing on her since middle school, Ray mused, spotting his best friend, Billy McGuire, still fawning over Alicia. Some things, it seemed, never changed, and Ray couldn't help but smile at the familiar sight. Just like with Adonis, a beam of light shrouded Alicia, and both she and Seraph were shielded from everyone's sight. This lasted for a few seconds as well. My theory must be true. Time flows differently within the light field. As the light faded, Ray felt his heart thumping hard against his chest. It was his turn now. Next, Seraph announced, her gaze fixed on him. Ray's heartbeat raced the instant he locked eyes with Seraph. It wasn't his norm to hold prolonged eye contact, but he felt it would be impolite to look away. Luckily, she averted her gaze first, granting him a moment of relief as he approached her. Whew. With each step nearer, his heart thudded faster in his chest. Give me your hand, her voice, like a melody, reached out to him. As Ray extended his hand, he caught a whiff of Seraph's scent, an intoxicating blend that surpassed the most captivating aromas. She seemed to embody an aroma beyond perfection, momentarily leaving Ray dazed. "Your hand," her voice broke his trance, and he hastily complied, feeling awkward for his earlier hesitation. "Sorry," Ray stammered, berating himself internally for his embarrassing slip-up. "I'm so stupid. What was I thinking?" Sneaking a glance at Seraph, he sought her reaction, fearing he'd offended her. To his relief, she seemed unbothered, almost indifferent, displaying no emotion on her face. It was as if his presence barely registered with her, leaving Ray feeling both embarrassed and relieved at the same time. As the radiant light encased them both, Ray felt his heart race even faster, now that it was just the two of them. The closeness intensified the allure of her scent, and her touch felt as soft as a whisper against his skin. "What am I doing?" Ray's mind raced, aware that he shouldn't entertain these thoughts, it might come off as creepy. But he was a guy after all, and he reasoned that anyone in his shoes might think the same way. However, before he could rationalize further, a jolt of shock surged through him at Seraph's unexpected words, "I can hear your thoughts, you know." "Yeah." Ray's response was instinctive, his gaze meeting the disapproving glare of the angel before him. A heavy, uncomfortable silence hung between them, stretching into unbearable seconds. I am sorry." Ray finally managed to mutter, the weight of the silence pressing down on him like a heavy burden. "Let's just get this over with," Seraph sighed, her words hitting Ray like a blow. It felt as though he were nothing more than an inconvenience, a throwaway piece. "It's fine. I deserve it. Besides, I'm used to this." Ray, accustomed to being met with disinterested or disconcerted gazes due to his averageness, found this treatment nothing out of the ordinary. "Before I show you the list of classes and skills, there are a few things you should know." Seraph resumed her official tone, as if the previous exchange had never occurred, or maybe she simply didn't care. It seemed she had already forgotten everything that just happened. "All skills and classes are given tiers based on their potency. This ranges from SSS tier to F tier. Naturally, SSS tier is the best, and F tier is the worst." Ray understood this much. However, just as with everything in life, there had to be a catch. SSS tier skills and classes are the most expensive, and F tiers are the cheapest. The value is measured by karma points. Seraph further broke it down for Ray, and it ended up looking something like this when it came to skills. Light's novel. SSS tier, primeval. SS tier, divine. S tier, absolute. A tier, grand. B tier, greater. C tier, mid. D tier, lesser. E tier, low. F tier, lowest. As for classes, the higher the tier, the more unique and the more special privileges come with it. Ray realized he needed to make the right choices on classes and skills within his allotted karma points from his life on Earth. "So, how much karma do I have?" Ray interrupted, his curiosity getting the better of him. "I was getting to that," Seraph responded, her slight frown indicating her displeasure at the interruption. Ray instinctively recoiled at her glare, immediately apologizing, "Sorry." "Ha, whatever." Seraph's dismissive response left Ray feeling like she was being unnecessarily sassy. Any attraction he might have had toward her began to dissipate rapidly. Finally, Seraph revealed, "Your total karma points are 57. That's pretty average, all things considered." 57? But it was 100 at birth. How? Ray's mind raced with questions. According to Seraph, karma points were reduced based on the negative perceptions people held towards a person. "But I've been pretty cordial with everyone." Was this yet another unfairness of life? The fact that people could hate a person or hold negative impressions of them for just existing. Will 57 karma be enough for decent skills and a good class? The worry gnawed at Ray, looming large in his mind. Now then. I will show you the list. Serapha's voice cut through his thoughts, summoning a massive translucent board. It displayed a lengthy catalog divided into two sections, skills on the right and classes on the left, neatly categorized by their tiers. Observing the abundance of skills compared to classes, Ray deduced, skills outnumber classes, probably because we can choose only one class but multiple skills. Taking his time to scrutinize the vast system window before him, Ray noticed Seraph wasn't hurrying him along. His theory about time slowing down within this realm seemed to be spot on. This realization eased his nerves, allowing him to focus on the daunting task ahead. Now that I've reached this point, which one should I choose? Ray mulled over his options, starting from the bottom of the list, well aware of his limited 57 karma points. Okay, F-tier skills are just 1 or 2 points. E-tiers won't exceed 5 points. D-tiers cap at 10 points. C-tier stops at 15 points. B-tier is at 25 points, and then a tier jumps to 30 points. S-tier is, whoa. I can snag one for 45 points. Ray was surprised at the possibilities within his reach. He realized that even an S-tier skill was attainable if he strategized. But that'd leave me with a lousy class, Ray realized. Conversely, opting for an S-tier class would mean weaker skills, creating a dilemma that begged for balance. Balancing both is the smart move for a good build, Ray acknowledged, recognizing the need for equilibrium between class and skills. SS class starts at 60 points. Out of my league, Ray sighed. The most expensive S class was about 59 points. He knew chasing after something beyond his reach was futile, but curiosity compelled him to explore further anyway. SSS class is 80 points upward. That's insane. Some of them even require all your karma points. Who would choose them? Ray marveled, eyes scanning the dazzling options before him. He could see a lot that was really cool and tempting. The power to obliterate anything, that was seriously tempting. And invulnerability against any harm. That was hard to resist. Ray mused, maybe that invulnerability was worth everything else, at least he'd be safe, right? But it costs 85 points. I can't afford it. In the end, he settled for the B-tier selections. Perhaps even a dip into the C-tier for a broader range. Being a one-trick pony wasn't really what he wanted, but Ray figured having multiple skills for versatility was the smarter move. I'm pretty average at everything anyway. It would be nice if I could do a bunch of things instead of just one or two. His gaze drifted downwards, ready to explore, until it snagged on something amid the SSS tier skills. Hold on, this is. It was a skill. This is. The skill was incredibly expensive. It seemed impractical, as it would demand absolutely everything from anyone who dared to acquire it. I have a question, Seraph, Ray ventured, his gaze locked onto the skill before him. He noticed a faint frown crease on her brow when he summoned her without the usual reverence, skipping any honorifics in his address. At this point, Ray couldn't care less. His focus was solely on the answer he sought. What's your question? Seraph responded, barely hiding her irritation. At this point, Ray wasn't concerned about appeasing her. In the end, she couldn't hurt him. There's no need to be like Adonis and suck up to her. This skill. Ray gestured toward the SSS tier skill in question. It mentions costing 100% of initial karma points. Does that mean it doesn't matter how many karma points I have? Whether it's 1 or 99. Among the array of SSS tier skills and classes sharing the same description, Ray's eyes remained fixed on one for a singular reason, a reason that set his heart pounding fiercely. What? It says that there? That's likely I understand. Serapha's tone hinted at an unsettling realization. Suspense hung heavy in the air for a fleeting moment. However, before Ray could hold his breath in anticipation, Seraph continued, indeed. However, since it refers to initial karma points, the moment you make a purchase, those points are no longer accessible. In that instant, relief and excitement collided within Ray, causing his eyes to widen in sheer revelation. What Seraph said aligned perfectly with his suspicion. Even someone with an average karma point can get an SSS tier skill. Ray's mind raced, his concern about the accompanying class taking a backseat to his burning desire. As long as I can wield this skill, that's all that matters. With a near-manic grin, he pounded the selection with such fervor that his fingers trembled. I choose you. Are you really sure? Serapha's words carried a note of caution, a vibe that made Ray pause. Her face mirrored her concern, telling him she didn't want him to acquire the skill. But since when did he care about her wishes? Absolutely. Ray's certainty surged within him. This skill, this chance, it held the power to transform his life entirely. I'm just average at everything. But with this power, I don't have to settle for that. Thoughts raced in Ray's mind. Whether he ended up with a decent class was no longer his primary concern, all that mattered was the skill. Okay, then. Now that you've bought the SSS tier skill, Doppel, you won't have any karma left to obtain a class. Serapha's confirmation echoed what Ray already knew. He was about to become classless. Maybe there's a hidden advantage to that, Ray mused silently. I can still hear your thoughts, you know. Seraph interjected, catching Ray off guard. The moment Serapha's words interrupted his thoughts, he felt a slight shiver within him. Her presence was impossible to ignore. There's no hidden advantage, and there's no such thing as being classless. She added with a sigh. Yet. Ray stammered. You'll be granted the default class commoner. The same class the average denizen of H-Tray has. Oh. Ray's heart sank at the mere sound of the class. If everyone had it, it couldn't promise anything pleasant. Are there any benefits? Ray's curiosity drove him to ask. None. You're just a commoner, Seraph replied matter-of-factly. Ah. Disappointment tinged Ray's voice. What did he expect? Being average never came with perks. Okay then. I get it. Are we finished? Ray inquired, eager to conclude this disheartening conversation. He had gotten his class and skill, so by all respects, he was good to go. So impudent. The muttered comment from Seraph reached Ray's ears, too faint to make out the words. What was that? We're done here, Seraph declared, brushing off Ray's inquiry with a casual wave of her hand. The veil of light enveloping them faded, revealing the world around them. So this is what Adonis and Alicia experienced, huh? I wonder what skills and classes they chose. Ray pondered, his thoughts drifting to his companions. With their popularity and charm, Ray speculated they likely possessed at least one S-tier skill and rested comfortably in the A-class league. Maybe they even aimed for the SS or SSS tiers, Ray mused. Their karma probably afforded them such options effortlessly. I don't know if they chose to give up all their karma points for only one skill or class, though. If that's the case, they'll only have one power. Or maybe, well, who knows. Next, Serapha's call jolted Ray from his reverie, prompting him to step away from his position. In the midst of it all, he realized his hand was no longer clasped with Serapha's. Well, chances are I won't see her again. Lights below Omicron M. Ray accepted the likelihood, pushing thoughts of Seraph aside and focusing on his new skill. There's so much to do. After the initial trio completed their selections, Seraph adopted a fair approach, calling out names in alphabetical order to ensure equity. This method ensured even a loser like Billy, known as Bill to his closest friend, Ray, had an early chance to choose his skills and classes. For a few, despite their popular status within the class, they found themselves relegated to the back of the line. This unexpected shift in the established hierarchy significantly altered the mood among the students, yet there was nothing they could do. Light's novel. Not against a literal angel. The process continued until each student had their turn to select. Finally, when the last selection was made, Seraph, now positioned to their right, turned towards them. A smile graced her face, visibly relieved to be finally done with the students. As Otherworlders, you'll understand the languages of H-Tray and possess considerable strength than natives. But remember, wield your powers responsibly, Seraph emphasized, her words resonating with many while others sported mischievous expressions. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Never forget that. Watch out for one another and this world you've been summoned to, she advised, her tone carrying a weight of caution. For some, it was now sinking in the realization that they were truly departing for another world. The elegant gate behind Seraph swung open, her hand gesturing toward it. You may now pass. It seemed that not everyone was confident in their ability to survive the trials that awaited them. As the students moved forward, a blend of confidence and uncertainty propelled them toward the unknown. Adonis and Alicia took the lead, followed by the rest of the group in their wake. Farewell, young ones. May your purpose be fulfilled, Seraph's parting words echoed, the final sentiments before they stepped into the gaping gate that seemed to lead to nowhere. And then, in a radiant beam of light, one by one, the students vanished from the expanse. With their departure, the domain now stood empty of their presence. Finally. Seraph slumped to the ground, her relief palpable as the last of the teenagers departed. The gate locked shut behind them, eliciting a wide smile from the angel, akin to the excitement of an eager child. That was such a hassle. Handling snotty kids isn't exactly in my job description, yet here I am, she grumbled. A lot of the teenagers were pretty much the standard, but a few had managed to surprise her, some for the better, others for the worse. Why couldn't they all be like that Adonis kid? TCH. Whatever. At least I can finally have my break, Seraph muttered with a hint of frustration. Rising slowly from her spot, she brushed off the lingering cloud particles that clung to her robe. Fortunately, the transition of the summoned souls had gone smoothly. Still. Her voice trailed off, her gaze narrowing in contemplation. Who would have thought there'd be such a glitch in the system? 100% karma points? It should have been 100 karma points. The skills and classes requiring 100 karma points were essentially ornamental, an impossible feat for anyone to achieve. And yet that kid managed to get his hands on one. Ray's name echoed in Seraph's thoughts. How troublesome. Realizing the glitch, she rectified it before the next person made their selection, but it was already too late for Ray. The boy had already slipped through the oversight. He got away with a skill no one should have. Him of all people. If it had been Adonis, she would have had no issues. It is impossible to flag or revoke the skill now that it's bound to him. Should I be concerned? No need. With a dismissive shrug, she pushed aside her thoughts. An average kid like him, such a powerful skill is wasted. The teenagers were no longer her concern, she was officially on break. Whatever happens next is none of my business. Wearing a deliberately sweet and oblivious smile, Seraph unfurled her wings and soared high above the cloudy platform. Her ascent enveloped everything beneath her in a misty haze. I wonder how they'll react once they discover what's in store for them, she chuckled to herself, finding amusement in the situation. The thought brought a smile to her face as she ascended further, leaving the students and their fate behind. Otherworlders, we plead for your help to save our world from ruin. These were the first words that hit the ears of the students as they stepped through Serapha's gate into the unfamiliar realm. A mix of voices, a combination of tones and pitches, echoed through the air, clearly coming from a gathering of people. Initially blinded by a brilliant light upon arrival, the 29 students struggled to see their surroundings. Gradually, the light dimmed, unveiling the scene before them. Once they could see, their eyes were greeted by what welcomed them to the new world. Most of them mumbled in wonder. The students were standing in a massive, luxuriously furnished room. Slipped from the lips of most in awe and amazement. The students found themselves in an expansive, lavishly decorated chamber. Chandeliers resembling dazzling diamonds hung from the ceiling, illuminating walls seemingly painted in gold. Their reflections gleamed on the polished marble floors, while intricate murals adorned the walls, lending an extra touch of luxury to the surroundings. Describing it as breathtaking would not have been an exaggeration, yet the students managed to maintain their composure. Perhaps it had something to do with the fact that they were being watched by a group of people who stood at a considerable distance from them. Among the spectators were several elderly individuals, outnumbered 2-to-1 by armored figures. Finally, standing at the forefront of the armored battalion was a man clad in a prestigious armor seemingly made from platinum. He had a bushy beard, with a fierce gaze that reminded the students of their math teacher back on Earth. He had a sheathed blade strapped to his waist, and 2 others crisscrossed in their sheaths behind him. The students could feel palpable tension sifting through the air. However, before they could utter a word, the most surprising thing occurred. We beg of you. In an instant, the entire assembly dropped to their knees, their expressions pleading, their voices trembling in supplication. Please save us. After this display, silence pervaded the hall for a few seconds. It seemed the students were grappling with how best to respond to these evidently desperate individuals. Amid this internal turmoil, some considering exploiting the clearly desperate denizens, others feeling compassion, a murmur of discussions began to brew among the students. Yet, before these murmurs could gain traction, a single voice cut through the emerging chatter. Greetings, denizens of H-Tray. My name is Adonis, and I have been chosen as the hero of this world by the... Wait a second, who chose you as the hero? The interrupting voice came from Alicia, her steps carrying her forward to confront Adonis directly. She had an evident scowl on her face, and her bold tone was definitely challenging his authority. Yet, undeterred by Alicia's challenge, Adonis stood his ground. Why? My class is the hero, and Seraph specifically told me that I am burdened with glorious purpose. If anyone has a valid objection, please let us hear it. In that moment, Adonis swiftly dismissed Alicia's feeble objection about his position. However, she wasn't done. Show us, she demanded, an unwavering smile gracing her lips. Prove that you're the hero. In response, Adonis turned his attention to the kneeling denizens who had remained silent, unable to comprehend the conversation since they didn't speak English. Lights below Omicron M. Their silence persisted until Adonis, realizing the language barrier, presented a solution. There is a way to check out our classes, isn't there? Since Adonis was referring to the kneeling audience, his words were automatically translated into the language they understood. Finally able to comprehend, they cautiously responded. Yes, Lord Hero. We possess an oculus which allows for the display of classes. This is used to prove the identity of individuals in our society, and the one who gave these explanations was one of the old geezers, and his point was that their device allowed the residents of this world to properly confirm if a person was who they claimed to be. In this world, classes were everything. A commoner had the commoner class, and a nobleman had the class of a noble. The device allowed them to discern which was which. I have an idea. Why doesn't everyone use it? We could also display our skills to better understand each other, Adonis suggested in a confident tone. However, the Oculus device couldn't check skills, so Adonis was basically proposing the disclosure of abilities by activating them in front of everyone. Besides, we can always check our status windows to confirm our abilities. Just saying status window reveals all our stats, he added, offering a simpler alternative for clarity. Adonis, with his captivating personality and eloquent speech, effortlessly held the attention of everyone present. Yet again, Alicia interjected with her trademark skepticism. That's a lot of information to take in. How did you manage to figure all this out? Her doubt lingered in the air. Seraph told me, Adonis revealed. Gasps ensued among the students. Seraph had given all of them basic information about their situation, but she had also refrained from telling them everything since they would be told once they arrived here. However, it seemed Adonis was the exception. She shared more than just that with me. You guys don't need to worry. Stick with me, and we'll be treated well here. We'll also have the chance to grow stronger. All we need to do is follow their guidance and stick together. As he spoke, the guard who had previously departed to retrieve the Oculus device returned, holding a crystal-like sphere in his hand. Carefully placing it on a pillow, he promptly presented it to the stern-faced man among the guards who seemed to be the leader. Here is the device. If you do not mind, I would like to approach you all to confirm your classes per your desire, the guard offered. We don't mind, Adonis responded immediately, automatically speaking for everyone. At this point, he wasn't even asking for permission any longer. He was the de facto leader. Looks like things are about to get a bit awkward, Ray thought, his nerves escalating as the chief warrior approached, carrying the Oculus. Light's novel. If they go through with this, everyone will know my class, Ray panicked inwardly. Personally, he wasn't too keen on revealing that information. Surprisingly, there was no protest as he had anticipated. Perhaps the group held an unquestioning respect for Adonis's decisions, or maybe they were just as curious about each other's classes. Ray personally didn't care. He already assumed others possessed superior classes, making the reveal unnecessary for him. Displaying our skills, though, that sounds interesting. A faint smile played on his lips. Let's just wait and see. The Oculus was initially brought to Adonis, who confidently placed his hand on the crystal ball, initiating its glow. S-Class, Hero was boldly written above his head in gold print. Just as he claimed, he possessed the class of the hero, and this elucidated gasps from the kneeling ones especially. You may all rise. Dignified ones such as yourselves need not sully your robes any longer, Adonis declared. In response to the words of Adonis, the old ones rose to their feet. Their eyes sparkled with wonder and respect for their hero. It was clear to everyone at that point that Adonis had become the center of attraction for everyone. Let's see your class too, Alicia. The noble hero turned to the girl beside him. We're all in this together, aren't we? Under the intense gaze of her peers and the piercing scrutiny of the H-Trans, coupled with Adonis' confident smile, Alicia found it difficult to refuse. With reluctance, she allowed herself to be scanned as well. A class, Grand Tamer. As Alicia's hand made contact with the orb, her class materialized in shimmering silver print. Oh! The reaction to her class reveal didn't match Adonis's reception, yet it echoed loudly. An A-class still impressed these onlookers. Well, it's not surprising that the two most popular people in our class got awesome classes. Ray mused to himself, sporting a small smile. He wondered what the classes of everyone else might look like. Maybe some people could also have the commoner class. Whether this thought was just a fleeting notion or Ray genuinely believed it remained a matter of debate. The Oculus made its rounds among the students, unveiling their classes one after the other. Most fell within the B or C tier range, with a few boasting A tier classes. Of course, none of them had D tier classes or lower. Damn. I knew this would be the case, but it's still surprising. Ray's eyes widened in disbelief as his turn approached, a twitch betraying his nerves. Even his closest friend, Billy, had an impressive A-tier class, Grand Night. Am I the only one stuck with an F-tier class? Ray's thoughts raced with dismay. Finally, it was his turn. Ray tentatively placed his hand on the Oculus, bracing for what he knew was coming. The text that materialized above him was lackluster and dull, its gray color barely emitting any light, the unmistakable mark of an F-tier class. F class, commoner. As the display revealed Ray's F-tier class, his classmates' gazes shifted, filled with utter surprise. He was among the first to choose, yet he ended up with such a shit class. Of course, everyone would be puzzled. However, Ray was taken aback by another emotion resonating from his peers, scorn. Serves him right. What a fool. That position was wasted on him. If it had been me, I would have chosen better. What do you expect from an underachiever? Even for someone like him, that's a new low. Their faces twisted with amusement at his misfortune, offering condescending looks that could drive anyone insane. But Ray wasn't shocked, he had anticipated this. I guess this is why I had such average karma back on Earth. Even now that they were in this world, nothing much had changed. He remained intensely disliked, even by his own classmates. All for simply existing. Ray's embarrassing moment didn't last too long, thankfully, since he wasn't the last one to use the Oculus. The orb was passed on to the next person, who had a C-tier class. It wasn't an amazing class or anything, but compared to Ray's commoner class, it was far more preferable. Even the decent folk around here are giving me strange looks. I guess they don't like underachievers. Ray mused to himself, sensing the disapproving glances he was getting. To avoid those unsettling stares, Ray remembered Adonis's advice and decided to give something a shot. Status window, he murmured under his breath. Status window. Name, Ray Schuyler. Race, human, Otherworlder. Class, commoner, F-tier. Level, 1, 0% EXP. Life force, 1. Mana level, 1. Combat ability, 1. Stat points, 0. Skills, exclusive doppel. Skills, non-exclusive nil. Alignment, neutral. Additional information. You possess the weakest class, but the strongest skill. You can only be described as an overpowered weakling. End of information. Yeah, not exactly surprised by this outcome, Ray chuckled inwardly. He wasn't expecting an overnight transformation into a powerhouse with godlike abilities or monstrous stats. Especially not with a commoner class. Some classes hand out privileges, giving you a crazy boost in stats right from level 1. The higher you climb, the more those stats pile up, Ray reasoned, drawing from his knowledge of gaming. This was why it was incredibly important to have at least a decent class, even if one wanted an overpowered skill. But I just had to get doppel. There's no way I'm going to regret my choice, even now. Ray was resolute about his choice, a sly grin playing on his lips. He just had to endure these early moments. Once they see what I can do, I'm sure they'll change their minds about me. Once the Oculus made the rounds, everyone got to see each other's class. It became crystal clear who was leading the pack. Adonis was the hero, and he was the only one with an S-tier class. One could only imagine the amount of karma he had in stock for him to have acquired such a pricey class. But that wasn't the end of the story. Adonis was pushing for full disclosure, urging everyone to reveal their skills. His confidence hinted at a formidable set of his own. People couldn't help but speculate whether he possessed an S-tier skill to match his class. You can check your status windows for your skills, Adonis advised his peers. By tapping on those skills, you can dig into their specifics. Lights and blow. For full transparency, and to ensure that we cooperate with each another by assigning roles based on our skill sets, let's be honest with our number of skills and the abilities they have. Adonis turned toward the H-trans when he was done talking, flashing his trademark heroic smile at them. You might want to step back for this demonstration. Swiftly reacting to his words, they shuffled several paces away until they were nestled by the entrance to the massive room. You should have another artifact besides the Oculus. One that sniffs out lies, he pointed out. Bring it here. Swiftly responding to the command of the hero, the leader of the guards shifted his gaze and signaled to a guard who stood directly beside him. The guard scurried off, returning in a flash with the artifact. The swiftness of his movements made it seem like artifacts were just lying around, waiting to be summoned. In truth, the H-trans most likely had these artifacts ready for such occasions, well prepared for any need that might arise. The soldier's quick retrieval suggested familiarity with the storage spots, a concept lost on the newcomers still getting familiar with the workings of the new world. This is the truth seeker. It allows us to discern whether a person is telling the truth or lies. The truth seeker was not an orb, but a box with an eye at the forefront. It had several symbols on it, and the markings that decorated it converged at the bulging eyeball. Thank you, Chief Warrior, Adonis acknowledged the bushy-bearded man handling the box with utmost care and respect. Lights novel. Hold it steady. We'll share our skills and their effects, and if possible, demonstrate them, Adonis directed. The unspoken warning lingered in the air, deception would not go unnoticed. Everyone understood the gravity of the situation, realizing compliance was their only choice under these conditions. With the terms set, the exhibition commenced. The air buzzed with anticipation as each individual prepared to reveal their abilities and face the scrutiny of the truth seeker. Amazing! Ray couldn't contain his genuine astonishment at the incredible abilities unfolding before his eyes. Each person showcased astonishing abilities, leaving both the H-trans and Ray awestruck. Adonis, in particular, drew Ray's attention. Adonis has 3 skills, and one is SS tier? That's even crazier than I thought. Ray's thoughts raced. His other 2 skills were S tier and A tier, an incredible combination. Is that even possible? The karma price alone should make it impossible, right? Ray suspected that there was some preferential treatment given to Adonis by Seraph, but he quickly dismissed the thought. I might be assuming too much. Maybe those skills came at a discount or something. It's hard to say. Still, once again, Adonis had made it clear to everyone that he was superior. His power, both in terms of skills and class, was unrivaled. And it's not just him. Ray noted, turning his attention to Alicia. She had 1 SS tier skill, 1 S tier skill, and 1 B tier skill. She was also an absolute beast in her own right. The others have some seriously decent skills. This is insane. Ray marveled at the impressive array of abilities his peers possessed. His best friend from school, Bill, was no exception. Bill had awakened 1 A tier and 4 B tier skills, adding to his already impressive A-tier class. However, not every student boasted immensely powerful skills. Some had rather average abilities, ranging from C to even D tiers, limited by their available karma points. Next up, Ray. The call brought Ray's attention back, making him slightly jittery as all eyes fell upon him. This is my moment, Ray thought nervously. He was determined to prove himself, to shatter the perception that he was an underachiever. His skill was the strongest among them all, and now was the time to showcase it. As Ray stepped forward, whispers surrounded him, hateful and dismissive. I bet he's got some useless skill. He's just wasting our time, honestly. Why's he smiling? Can't be anything worthwhile. It's gotta be a C tier at best. Those murmurs, as Ray advanced, triggered a stark realization within him. They don't want me to succeed, he concluded. The disdain from his classmates wasn't just about looking down on him, it was about maintaining the status quo. They want to keep me down, Ray acknowledged, a new understanding dawning upon him. Life, he recognized, often upheld this cycle. The strong stayed strong while ensuring the weak remained in their place. Disrupting this status quo seemed inconceivable to them, regardless of potential or capability. As Ray stepped into the spotlight, a sinking feeling replaced his initial excitement. I get it now, he sighed inwardly. His smile faltered, fading into the background as a sobering realization settled in. No point trying, he concluded bitterly. In their eyes, he was already pegged as the underachiever of the group. At that moment, Ray made a choice. If this is what they expect, he resolved, a small smile reclaiming its place on his lips, then so be it. I'm okay being an extra. All eyes were on Ray. As he stood before Adonis and the head guard who held the truth seeker, an air of tension wrapped around him. Faces in the crowd held a mix of curiosity and uncertainty or the lack thereof, everyone with various expectations. And then, breaking the silence. How many skills do you have, and what are their names? Adonis asked calmly. He had automatically taken the role of proctor, and no one dared complain considering how honest he had been with everyone about his powers. And how extraordinary those powers were. Ray replied firmly, I have just one skill, named . A murmur swept through his classmates, hushed gasps and whispers tinged with surprise. The sheer surprise arose from the absurdity of someone bearing an F-tier class possessing a single skill. The astonishment lingered in the air, palpable among those gathered. And no way. This is even worse than I expected. Some didn't even bother hiding their chuckles any longer. Those who thought they had it bad, thanks to only having a few decent skills, and perhaps an average class, felt extremely relieved to see someone worse off than them. This too was part of life. But a sudden voice cut through the mockery. Everyone, please be silent. I will not allow you to speak about one of our classmates like that. He proclaimed firmly, his tone commanding attention. It instantly caused an absolute lull among the murmurs and snickers. The voice was Adonis, and he had a deep frown of disapproval on his face. Ray is one of us. You are all judging him without even knowing his full capabilities. Even if he is weak or average, he doesn't deserve to be looked down on. We are all in this together. As Adonis continued, the arrogant and condescending gazes began to fade. The faces of the students fell, regret settling in for those involved in the indirect bullying. Remember what Seraph said. We need to look out for one another. So please, let's stop this. No one said anything, but the sheer silence and the penitent expressions that everyone had already displayed how much Adonis had moved them. Don't let their words bother you, Ray. Your skill or class doesn't define you, you're still one of us, Adonis reassured, a tap on Ray's shoulder accompanied by his trademark smile. That reassuring, confident but relatable smile that only Adonis could give. "Thanks, Adonis. Means a lot," Ray responded with a tired yet grateful smile, acknowledging the support. With the whole commotion resolved, it was finally time to resume the interview. "What can your skill do? What tier is it? Give us a demonstration." No one displayed any mockery towards Ray, but the curiosity on their faces could not be hidden. Everyone wanted to know. "All right, here goes," Ray announced, drawing in a deep breath. He closed his eyes briefly before slowly reopening them, raising his right hand as well. Glup. Suddenly, Ray's body morphed into the claw of a colossal crab. Lights blow Omicron M. The transformation was vivid, complete with a brown exoskeleton and two formidable, snapping pincers resembling a crab's unmistakable features. "This skill lets me shape a part of my body into something I've seen before. It's a B-tier skill," Ray explained, his matter-of-fact tone matching the unassuming nature of an average boy. I see." It seemed even Adonis was stunned by this revelation. He must have expected Ray to have a super op skill as his single skill, but apparently, B-tier was the best he could do. Adonis glanced at the truth seeker, and apparently, Ray was telling the truth. "Can it mimic the special attributes of those you transform into, or?" Adonis inquired. "Just their physical traits. That's why it's only B-tier," Ray replied. "I see. It sounds similar to Justin's skill." Justin Baker had previously showcased his ability to transform into anything he'd seen before, much like Ray's power. However, unlike Ray, his mimic skill allowed him to transform his entire body in addition to the partial transformation. That made it a much stronger skill. Still, they could both only mimic the physical attributes and not the special qualities like skills or classes which made them both B-tier skills. "All right then. Looks like you're telling the truth." Adonis maintained his smile and nodded. Light's novel. If he was disappointed, then the hero was doing a good job of hiding it. Others, however, struggled to conceal their reactions. Expressions of disbelief and faintly amused grins slipped through, though no one dared voice their thoughts. "You may return." "Thank you." Ray reverted his hand to its original form and stepped down from the stage, resuming his earlier position with folded hands and attentive eyes. He needed to observe the next student's presentation. As the next student prepared to showcase her abilities, Ray kept his focus, eager to witness their demonstration. Amidst the ongoing exhibition, a hushed whisper reached Ray's ears from the adjacent side. "Hey, I saw your exhibition, and I thought that was a pretty cool ability," the voice whispered. Despite the suddenness, Ray remained unfazed, his attention fixed on the showcase. "I was wondering if..." Before the speaker could finish, Ray interjected, "I'm sorry, but could we talk later? I'm occupied right now," without sparing a glance in their direction. Ray's focus remained fixed on the ongoing presentation, his curiosity undiminished by the interruption. "Oh, okay," came the subdued response. Ray vaguely registered the fading footsteps, assuming the person had left, as he continued to immerse himself in the unfolding exhibition. For him, nothing mattered more at that moment than the display before him. Ray let out a heavy sigh. "I was rude, wasn't I? That wasn't my intention, but I can't afford any distractions right now." Even before Ray's turn, he'd meticulously observed each of his classmates' exhibitions. That resolve remained unshaken. "I have to see them all." "Why?" To Ray, the answer was straightforward: it was due to his skill, Doppel. "I made everyone believe it's just a B-tier skill when it's so much more." His success at deceiving everyone was due to his attentive observation during the display of skills. Understanding the intricacies of each skill he saw was fundamental to his own. That was the essence of his unique ability. Skill details. Doppel. Tier, SSS. Ability, allows the user to mimic the nature of any ability that exists as long as he has seen it once, down to the appearance and quality of what he mimics. Number of abilities obtained, 75. Limit count, 75/100. I've acquired the skills of over 20 of my classmates, Ray realized, a sense of quiet satisfaction creeping in. His strategy had been cunningly simple. He'd absorbed Justin's skill and led others to believe his own ability mirrored it, disclosing the tier of the skill he was currently showcasing. That way, he wasn't particularly lying. At this rate, I'll have all their skills, Ray contemplated, a hint of anticipation coloring his thoughts. And the beauty of it all? No one would know. The next day. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a good night's rest. The chief warrior, Brutus, faced the group of students gathered in their living room, each finding their comfortable spot. He was the same man with the bushy beard they had met yesterday. After the students introduced themselves, the geezers followed suit. The old ones were the nation's most accomplished mages, and they had all been involved in the summoning magic that brought them to this world. Once the introductions were in order, Adonis proposed giving his classmates time to rest and process the whirlwind of events that had occurred, so Brutus and the guards escorted them to their living quarters. And, just as expected for the world's chosen saviors, their residence was nothing short of spectacular. Each had a personal room, and they shared a spacious parlor big enough to host a crowd thrice their number without feeling cramped. The furniture might have been medieval, but it was the best they could have asked for. The decor and vibe exuded a royal essence, making their quarters feel regal in every aspect. The 29 Otherworlders found themselves treated like royalty from day one, despite the fact that they were foreigners. Of course, the absence of modern amenities like air conditioners or running water made it a little difficult for some to get used to the new environment. The students were initially oblivious to these difficulties, but as time went on, they slowly realized the downsides of their new, unfamiliar world. Fortunately, they were able to adapt just fine. Their needs were met by attentive servants, ensuring they never lacked water or other basic needs. The natural airflow in their rooms and the spacious parlor kept them comfortably settled. It wasn't perfect by any means, but considering the world they were currently in, it was the best they could hope for. The following day, Brutus paid them a visit. "We slept well. Your hospitality is remarkable," Adonis replied on behalf of the group. No one voiced any grievances. "I'm glad to hear that. I bring news today. If you don't mind, I would like to proceed," Brutus continued, eager to share important information. Adonis took his time to look at his classmates, and all of them seemed pretty cool about the whole thing. He then turned to the chief warrior and nodded. "All right. Go ahead." "Thank you, hero," Brutus acknowledged, his stern expression tightening for an unknown reason. "The rulers of the land wish to meet you. Since learning of the successful summoning, their eagerness to see you has grown. However, out of respect for your need to rest, the meeting was postponed until today," Brutus explained, awaiting their response. "Rulers of the land? There isn't just one." Alicia's voice broke the silence. Apart from Adonis, it seemed only she would occasionally voice out her opinions. The others were content to remain silent. "Indeed. Humanity has united under an alliance due to the looming threat we face. We are the United Human Alliance, and our nation is led by the Royal Council," Brutus elaborated. Brutus went on to explain that the Royal Council comprised rulers of the separate human nations that were now unified under one banner. So this royal council was responsible for the decision to summon us too? Alicia asked. Correct, Brutus confirmed, his head respectfully bowed. Adonis found the prolonged bowing uncomfortable. We'd be happy to meet them. Will you lead the way? Adonis redirected the conversation. Yes. You can count on me. It seemed Brutus had been anxiously waiting for an answer, and upon getting one, his face lit up with joy. All right, everyone. I guess it's time to meet the rulers, Adonis addressed his comrades. In these clothes? Shouldn't we change into something more suitable? A voice chimed in. Into what? We only have one attire, right? Questioned another. Lights blow Omicron M. I'm sure Adonis will ask if we can have more options, someone suggested. Despite the murmurs exchanged among them, the students stood up, ultimately choosing to follow their leader's direction. Let's go. As Adonis led, trailed by the rest and followed by Brutus, they walked through hallways, then out into an expansive field, finally arriving at the Grand Royal Palace. The palace was what you would expect from a medieval fantasy world. It had a towering height, and its structure was vast and sprawling. It glistened under the golden sun, and its outer walls gleamed with prestige. As for the interior, it was even more impressive. Murals lined with gold and precious stones adorned every corner of the hallway, stealing their breath away. The chandeliers suspended from the ceiling invited attention, while the mirrored tiles they walked upon, reminiscent of their summoning room, caught their gaze. Well-armored guards stood sentinel at each corner. As the Otherworlders followed Brutus, they were greeted with bows and reverent gazes. Light's novel. You'll need to get used to it. You're the saviors of this world, Brutus remarked, noticing their unease. Of course, not everyone was uncomfortable. Many relished the attention, but the fact that they were going to meet the supreme rulers of humanity made them a little nervous. However, any anxiety they had disappeared upon reaching the grand entrance. Greetings, esteemed rulers of humanity. I present to you the Royal Council, the summoned Otherworlders, Brutus announced loudly as he pushed open the shimmering gates leading to the throne room. Following his lead, Adonis and his classmates entered in a line. Wow! Escaped from many mouths, attempts to stifle their gasps failing in the face of the room's magnificence. Forget the summoning room, the living quarters, the hallways, or the breathtaking design of the palace exterior. The throne room alone surpassed them all. It felt as though they were walking on ground paved with gold. The walls glittered like diamonds, and the brilliant lights that emanated from various precious gems around made it seem like paradise. A wonderful scent filled the air, an aroma that soothed the senses. Guards garbed in special armor stood in strategic positions in the throne room, and on the elevated precipice within the room were 5 chairs. The ones who sat on this precipice were the rulers of the United Human Alliance, the Royal Council. 4 men and a woman adorned in elegant robes and crowned heads sat atop this platform. Their presence carried an indescribable weight that words could not describe, an aura that left the onlookers breathless. Brutus bowed in the presence of these absolute figures, and when the students confusedly looked at one another, not knowing whether to bow or not, Adonis looked at them and shook his head. There was no need to bow. We're not inferior to them, he reassured his classmates with a smile. Here stood the same Adonis who had found it proper to show respect to a stranger like Seraph. Yet, he didn't find it necessary to bow before these royal dignitaries. Of course, his classmates followed his lead and kept their heads up despite Brutus groveling. You may rise, Brutus. You are welcome, Otherworlders. The man at the center spoke, his voice surprisingly calming. He appeared to be the youngest among the 5, probably in his early 30s, yet he was given the honor of speaking first. Brutus immediately rose to his feet and bowed slightly before assuming a formal stance. I don't see Lucial. Is she still unwell? Inquired the woman among the seated council members. She seemed only slightly older than the one at the center, probably nearing her 40s. Yes, Your Grace. She's yet to recover from the toll of the summoning magic, Brutus replied with a slight tremor in his voice. Luciel held the esteemed position of Grand Mage within the United Human Alliance. According to Brutus, she had led the charge in the summoning ritual. Being the most powerful and skilled mage in the United Kingdoms, the toll of the summoning weighed heavily upon her. We wouldn't have been able to summon you without her help, Brutus emphasized to the students, underscoring Luciel's crucial role. Even in her absence, Luciel's influence reverberated throughout the upper echelons of this world. Acknowledging her absence, Adonis expressed his intent to visit her afterward. I should go see her after this, then, he mentioned. I am sure she would appreciate it immensely, Brutus responded with his usual courtesy, maintaining his respectful demeanor. For a moment, silence filled the hall, leaving the students feeling somewhat overlooked throughout the discussion. However, that soon changed. Forgive the diversion, esteemed Otherworlders, the man at the center stood, prompting the other four to follow suit. Welcome to H-Tray. This is the United Human Alliance, the dominant nation of the Western continent, the man declared, his voice resonating through the room without losing its composed tone. I am Conrad Listrio, Grand Master of the Royal Council, he introduced himself with a brilliant smile directed at the young visitors, gesturing warmly with outstretched hands. It is truly a pleasure to have you in our midst, he expressed sincerely. Grand Master Conrad Listrio stepped forward, introducing himself and the other members of the council just as he began addressing the Otherworlders. He felt a genuine honor being in their presence, enough to prompt him to rise from his seat. The remaining four council members mirrored his gesture, and as he spoke their names, they respectfully bowed their heads. Watching from within the group, Ray couldn't help but notice the display of respect. A notion crossed his mind, it seems they have a lot of respect for us. Yet, in the very next moment, he narrowed his eyes in suspicion, or maybe, they're at a point where they desperately need our help. The very fact that humanity had banded together under one banner, and had to resort to summoning beings from another world was already enough proof of that. Let's just see where this goes. Ray, just like the rest of his classmates, listened to Conrad as he began to explain the reason for their summoning. Since Seraph never told them the details, they all paid rapt attention. The entire world is facing a terrible threat, the Dragon Emperor, Conrad announced solemnly. In this world they had arrived in, there were many races existing alongside humans. Among those races, dragons stood out as the most powerful. It all began a decade ago when they suddenly emerged and began to wreak havoc on the lands. They easily took over the northern continent and made it their haven. Conrad went on, his voice heavy with gloom as he spoke. Consequently, the races that once occupied the northern continent, beastfolk, lizardmen, and a few other minor races were all wiped out. The northern continent was the grandest and wealthiest when they began their invasion. Dragons are known to be incredibly possessive and greedy. A prosperous land is nothing but a target for them. To Ray, it seemed odd that in the face of such danger, the humans continued to live in luxury. If dragons crave riches, why flaunt them? Ray mused silently. Despite the luxuries, the fact that the dragons hadn't come to completely obliterate the place hinted that perhaps these riches didn't quite stir the dragons' desires enough. But what more could they possibly want if this isn't enough? Ray pondered. We've been having dragon attacks ever since they took over the northern territory, some more devastating than others. It was only after an entire human nation was destroyed by a dragon attack that the rest of us decided to band together under a banner. Ultimately, it boiled down to a united we stand, divided we fall situation. So what do you need us to do exactly? Face those dragons in your stead? Ward off the dragon attacks. Alicia cut to the chase, her tone demanding clarity from Conrad about their intentions. The royal council could no longer dance around the truth. They had to lay bare their true motives, revealing what they expected from these young teenagers. We need you to take down the Dragon Emperor and rid this world of dragons entirely. Until that task is accomplished, peace will remain an elusive dream, Conrad declared. While many had suspected this would be their request, the weight of the words still sent shockwaves through the room, audible gasps mingling with the tension. So that's the deal, huh? We're basically their soldiers, Ray concluded within his thoughts. He harbored no animosity toward the kingdom. If their tale was true, they were truly in terrible danger due to the dragons. It seemed only logical for them to resort to any means necessary to solve the problem. In situations like this, sometimes the ends justify the means, he reasoned, acknowledging that their selfish actions could be justified by their urgent circumstances. Moreover, if they hadn't been summoned, death would likely have been their fate anyway. What room was there for resentment? Maybe we should discuss among ourselves. Light's novel. We'll do it, Adonis's resolute voice abruptly cut across Alicia's cautious suggestion. What? Alicia and others reacted sharply to Adonis's unilateral decision. Not only had he failed to consult anyone else, but he also spoke as if he could read their minds. Hey, Adonis. You can't just. Alicia stormed toward Adonis, her eyes blazing with anger. Lights blow Omicron M. Dragons, even in the modern world, were known as incredibly powerful forces. Every student in the room had definitely seen one or two movies with dragons in them. Yet here they were, being asked to confront these formidable beings. Relax, Alicia, everyone, calm down, Adonis interjected in English, directing his soothing words specifically to his peers. His tone carried a reassuring gentleness. A small smile began to form on his face, and his enchanting eyes drew everyone in. Just trust me. I've said it before, if we stick together and follow their guidance, we will be fine, Adonis assured, though skepticism lingered among many students, evident in their expressions. We are much stronger than the natives of this world. Seraph said it herself. There was a reason why the Htrans had to summon them, in the first place. Sure, the dragons sound formidable, but I'm sure we can take them. Besides, if we decide to help them, I'm sure they'll have no choice but to listen to all our demands and cater to our needs. Adonis' final words made everyone realize the illusion of a choice that they had. They were in another world, and they were pretty much dead in their old ones. Unless they wanted to wage war against this human alliance, which wouldn't really be helpful for either side, the best way to get what they wanted was to establish diplomatic ties with the nation. We're essentially their best hope, Adonis asserted. If we align with them, they'll have to accommodate our every need. Besides, by training and learning, I'm sure we'll be ready to face the dragons. The moment he finished speaking, there was silence among his audience. Adonis, his smile widening, blonde hair framing his face, looked at them expectantly. Well, he prompted, seeking their agreement or dissent. Did Seraph tell you all this too? Alicia's unexpected question lingered in the air, but Adonis remained unfazed. No, he admitted with a nonchalant shrug, just a hunch. Implicitly, everyone understood the unspoken directive, follow Adonis. With his determination set, the remaining student's best bet was to hitch a ride on the Adonis Express. I was on board the Adonis train from the start, Ray thought to himself, suppressing a smile. Training to be stronger. Fighting dragons. Saving the world. He needed them more than anyone else. How else will I be able to use all my skills? The night before. So far, I have a total of 85 skills. Ray sprawled lazily across his luxurious bed, his gaze fixated on the luminous status window displaying a tally of his abilities, 85 skills and counting. Despite being an average nobody, he was still able to get a luxurious treatment just for being an Otherworlder. He wondered if this would change once the higher UPS found out about his apparent incompetence, but Ray soon shrugged it off as unimportant. Ray dismissed the concern with a nonchalant shrug. I'll figure it out somehow. They won't ditch me from the team, not if Adonis keeps backing me. Adonis, in Ray's eyes, retained an aura of respect. He was not someone he idolized, but he acknowledged the power behind Adonis's position and intended to use it as his own shield. Alicia, he thought, wasn't exactly mean or condescending, but she didn't exactly speak up for me either. She mostly seemed uncomfortable about the whole thing. Ray harbored no grudge against Alicia, yet he found maintaining a neutral stance with her to be the wisest choice. When it boiled down to it, Adonis remained his strongest ally. Then there's someone else who caught me off guard. Ray's thoughts drifted to his supposed best friend, Billy McGuire. He joined in on their mockery of me. I get why he did it though. Billy held an A-tier class and boasted 5 remarkably decent skills, positioning him at the upper echelons of their class solely based on his stats. I guess he's graduated from being the underdog who sticks by my side. Ray let out a wistful smile, a mere flicker of emotion while he maintained his lounging position on the bed. It hurts a bit. His hand instinctively moved to his chest, clutching at it with a tinge of ache. He should have seen this coming, considering the track record Bill had as a people pleaser who always tried to get on everyone's good side. His karma points must have skyrocketed from all that effort to win everyone's favor. Ray acknowledged the probable reason behind Billy's success. In the end, it paid off for him. And the one person who was his friend was thrown to the side? That's brutal, man. Ray's hand, having gripped his chest moments ago, now rested at his side. As he released a soft sigh. It's not worth it. Let's focus on what's important now. His words sounded rehearsed, almost mechanical, a deliberate attempt to bury his emotions rather than confront them head-on. But time was a luxury he couldn't afford. Everyone has amazing classes, which means they have a head start in this world. I can't afford to be lazy. Ray repeated the mantra to himself, determination flickering in his eyes. Reigniting his resolve. I've categorized my skills into 2 lists, useful and obsolete. Ray meticulously examined his skill inventory, noting the stark contrast between the useful and obsolete ones. The former boasted high-tier abilities, each excelling in their respective domains, while the latter consisted of watered-down versions. For example, Ray possessed a B-tier skill called Greater Battle Aura, but there was an inferior skill in his collection which was called Battle Aura, a C-tier skill. His skill list was rife with more examples like this. However, without an option to merge or advance skills, the obsolete ones served no purpose other than cluttering his repository. To make room for future skills, it's time to shed the dead weight, Ray decided. With a few taps on his status window, Ray initiated the removal process, watching as the tally of his skills dwindled before his eyes, freeing up space for the more important abilities he would acquire in the future. Limit count, 49. After the purge, only 49 of the initial 85 skills remained in Ray's arsenal. Looks like a lot of people had similar or inferior versions of the top ones of our class. Can't blame them, though. These skills are good. Now that he had streamlined his skill set, Ray focused on the next step, further classification. Attack. Defense. Buff. Miscellaneous. These 4 categories became the bedrock of his skill organization. Pure offense, like Grand Fire magic, goes straight into the attack category. Ray mentally sorted through his skills, assigning each to its designated domain. Defensive skills, such as absolute defense, find their place in the defense category. Clear divisions began to take shape in Ray's mind. Buff skills elevate stats or enhance the effects of other skills. Greater battle aura and other related skills fall right here. Ray pinpointed the abilities that bolstered his overall prowess. And then there's the miscellaneous group. Ray assigned skills like Divine Beast Summon, which defied easy categorization. Phew, that was quite the task. Ray exhaled, a sense of accomplishment washing over him as he completed the meticulous categorization of his skills. Lightsville. After carefully placing all of them in their categories, it looked something like this. Attack category, 27. Defense category, 9. Buff category, 10. Miscellaneous, 3. Well, that's that. Once Ray was done separating all his skills, he made sure to look through them once again while smiling broadly to himself. I can't wait to start using them. He obviously couldn't display his abilities in front of his classmates, but Ray figured his chance would come. He just had to look out for an opportunity. Now I'm getting excited about this new world. The present day. After Conrad's address to the Otherworlders, a unanimous agreement surfaced, hinged on a vital condition: the United Human Alliance pledged to fulfill any reasonable desire of the students within their power. With the terms settled, the students dispersed to their chambers. Light's novel. Already having submitted their requests beforehand, the swift fulfillment of their wishes began unfolding. Attendants delivered fresh garments, including clothing and underwear, while any accessories they had asked for promptly appeared at their doorstep. Naturally, modern gadgets like smartphones were out of reach, but this was as close to perfect as a medieval world could possibly get. The students couldn't imagine the life of a commoner in this realm, but nestled in their privileged status, they found little to complain about. All it required was fulfilling their assigned duties to continue this lavish lifestyle. Yet, amid this comfort, worry remained an alien concept to the students. They possessed a trump card: their trust in Adonis. As the pillar of their support and influence, Adonis's presence reassured them. Hey, anyone seen Adonis around? Justin's voice echoed through the parlor, his brows furrowed in search of their prominent figure amidst the group of students lounging together. Adonis. He and Alicia are off hashing things out with the chief warrior, probably sorting our training agenda, Billy chimed in, already a member of the popular squad. His dark brown hair and lean physique might have seemed out of place among the cool kids, yet he seamlessly blended in. On the surface, Billy's appearance might have slated him as an outsider, but there was an unspoken acceptance among the group. His sudden integration into their ranks puzzled many, but once he showcased his skills and class, he ascended to a different rank in their collective esteem. He was strong, and that was enough to grant him access to the sacred haven of the class upper echelon. Ugh, Alicia again? Why is she always trying to cozy up to Adonis? Jade's voice held a note of exasperation. Their strained history added fuel to Jade's annoyance. Seriously. You'd think she'd ease off after their breakup, but nope, she's relentless, another student chimed in, echoing Jade's sentiments. Before long, the conversation morphed into a session of airing grievances against Alicia. Once you scaled the social ladder in school, it meant either adoration from the masses, a la Adonis, or disdain, like Alicia. The downsides of popularity became glaringly evident. While Adonis basked in admiration, Alicia found herself squarely in the crosshairs of criticism. She's pretty. So what? She has terrible behavior. She's bossy and overbearing too. Who does she think she is? For every fan and supporter Alicia had, there lurked a multitude harboring envy and resentment, disapproving of her personality and eager to belittle her behind her back. "That's enough. You should all stop right there." Billy's voice reverberated through the room, cutting through the venomous chatter that had consumed the air. His scowl projected intense disapproval, a stark departure from his usual agreeable demeanor. "What's up, Bill? You think she's an asshole too, right?" The question hung in the air, awaiting a response. In the past, Billy would have swallowed his true thoughts, suppressing his feelings for Alicia to align with the popular sentiment in the room. He had been a pushover, devoid of individuality, bending over backward to appease those above him. But something had shifted, a subtle yet significant change in the dynamics. "No. Don't talk about Alicia like that." Billy's retort was firm, a departure from his former compliance. He was no longer the one at the bottom, and they were no longer the ones at the top. Their roles had been reversed. "Anyone who talks shit about Alicia will be on my bad side." He was now the one above, and everyone else in the room was beneath him. Why? Is that understood? The reason was simple. Fine, whatever. Looks like someone has a crush on Alicia. Can't blame you, man. She's very pretty. Before long, everyone had changed the topic to favor Alicia and soothe Billy. All of this, for one single reason. He was stronger than them. "All right, everyone. Let's gather around." Adonis was standing close to the entrance of the Otherworlders' residence. Beside him was Alicia, but she was mostly silent. The students began streaming into the living room, curious about what Adonis had to say. Even the ones holed up in their rooms emerged upon hearing his call. Before long, everyone had arrived, all seated in their respective chairs or sofas. A few also opted to sit on the quite cool and comfortable floor. Their eyes filled with anticipation, fixated on Adonis, as they waited patiently for his announcement. Maybe some of you already know this, but Alicia and I thought it was high time to catch up with Brutus to plan out our training sessions. Adonis' announcement elicited a few groans, but nothing too serious. "You don't have to worry. I made it crystal clear to him that we're not signing up for boot camp." Adonis flashed a reassuring grin at his crew. "This won't be like school, I promise. Not even close." A few laughs were heard from the audience at the last statement, as well as sighs of relief. In this strange new world, despite the few inconveniences, one thing stood out and made everyone appreciate it even more: there was no school. For these lively teenagers, the absence of that stressful environment was a breath of fresh air. Many had worried that this training would become a new version of the dreaded school. But thankfully, Adonis's words brought a wave of relief. His reassurance sparked hope among them. "We'll be expected to put in about 6 hours a day for training. Sounds pretty generous compared to our old school routine, right?" Adonis nodded, flashing a wink as if he were dishing out a grand favor. 6 hours. Someone groaned, and a chorus of complaints followed. "I just want to chill here a bit longer. Do we get any time for ourselves before training starts tomorrow?" Adonis declared firmly, setting off an even louder uproar among the students. Their attitude had shifted, morphing into a bunch of entitled kids grumbling about intensive training. "Guys, people in this world are dying every day," Alicia pointed out, trying to instill a sense of purpose. "Our primary purpose for being here is to save them. Starting training as soon as possible gives us the best shot at fixing this mess." Alicia had kept quiet since the meeting started, observing the students' reactions. However, seeing their response, she felt compelled to step in. Her light scowl after saying those words shook a few people. "However, that's not our problem, is it? We're just teenagers trying to live a little. Who can blame us?" The dissenting voice belonged to none other than Adam Sanchez, the class jock, who was quite popular. He and Adonis shared a lot of qualities, despite Adam's hair being black and not blonde like Adonis. They were both handsome, athletic, and pretty popular. However, personality-wise, they couldn't be any different. Adam, often known for his selfish and egotistical nature, stood in stark contrast to the selfless and kind Adonis. In this moment, his self-centeredness was on full display for everyone to witness. "Adam, you've crossed a line," Adonis responded, a hint of disappointment creasing his brow. "Why? Because I spoke up? I've been watching silently all this time, but that doesn't mean I'll sit here and blindly follow your lead," Adam shot back, his eyes shooting daggers at Adonis. Adam's flippant but incredibly defiant smile was plastered on his face as he stared at Adonis as though daring him to try him. "Hey, man, I'm just saying, some of us don't want to save the world or anything," he added with a smirk. Being one of the first alphabetically, Adam had the privilege of choosing his class and skills earlier than most. However, due to his awful personality, his karma was remarkably lower than average. Lights below Omicron M. As a result, both his single skill and class were B tier and C tier respectively. Needless to say, he didn't have as much influence as he used to. "Speak for yourself, dude. Just be quiet, Adam. Yeah, zip it. We don't need you causing unnecessary drama right now. Why didn't you say all these things earlier?" The students who wouldn't have been able to even squeak in his presence back in school began raining condescending words on him. The tables had turned on him pretty quickly. Yet, in response to the jeers aimed his way, Adam's smile widened as he defiantly faced the crowd. "Whatever. I couldn't care less about what any of you think." Then, he simply crossed his arms and legs like a child throwing a tantrum. "I'm not joining the training. You can't make me." Lights novel. Adam's defiance filled the room, sparking silent gasps that rippled through the crowd. There was the underlying fear that if someone like Adam could refuse training, then others might follow suit. His actions threatened to unravel the unity among the students, creating disruptions that could spiral out of control. In this critical moment, Adonis was expected to swiftly address the situation, preventing Adam's influence from spreading further. But if that's your decision, so be it. Anyone else not interested in training can opt out as well. And if it gets too tough, and you want to bail, that's your choice. I won't force any of you into something you're not willing to do." Adonis's unexpected response left everyone astounded. But he wasn't finished yet. "However, by opting out, you choose to forfeit the benefits those who train will receive. Not just in terms of strength but other privileges as well." "Oh? What kind of privileges?" Adam interrupted, his smile tinged with sarcasm. For a brief moment, silence hung heavy in the room, each second stretching the tension, until Adonis finally spoke. "Well, this residence is exclusively for those committed to saving the world. No one else is allowed in." The weight of those words settled over everyone, painting a clear picture of their reality. The nation was desperate but only for those dedicated to their cause. If an Otherworlder lacked interest in the mission, there was no reason to invest in them, especially when they already had the hero on their side. "Fine, then. Make your choice. If exploring and having fun is what you truly want, no one will hold you back. Your adventures can start once you leave the royal estate," Adonis declared calmly. "TCH, whatever." Adam's voice trailed off, his defiance waning as it became evident that Adonis had won. He had lost. "Let's get back on track. Training starts at 7 a.m., and..." But before Adonis could finish, more groans and complaints filled the room. This time, however, he didn't tolerate it with a smile. If the timing doesn't suit you, feel free to opt out. But remember, being late isn't an option. If you can't make it on time, you might as well stay back. Adonis' stern words jolted everyone into the reality of the situation. It wasn't going to be all fun and games. Defiance meant being disregarded by the nation. Only the most committed and loyal Otherworlders, like the hero, would receive support. The rest would be left in the dust. Training will wrap up by 2 p.m. We will have 2 30-minute breaks within that time, totaling 7 hours. But like I said, the core training is just 6 hours. Adonis clarified. The students realized the challenge ahead, but there was a silver lining. After 2 p.m., you are free to do as you please, have fun, rest, shop, whatever. However, since we are new to this world, we are not permitted to leave the royal estate. At least, not yet. The reason for that was simple. Beyond the extremely massive grounds that the estate covered, and the large walls that separated it from the rest of the royal capital, were the commoners of this world. Some were upper class, others were middle class, but it didn't change the fact that life was vastly different beyond the walls. In here, we are protected and catered for. Our training will be supervised by the best of the best, and all our needs will be met. As long as we follow the rules, everything will be perfectly fine, Adonis reassured. Despite Adonis saying all of this, and the majority of the students believing him, a few students could see behind the facade of goodwill. Granted, they were well taken care of, protected, and sheltered. Everything seemed perfect. They were safe and comfortable too. However, we're constantly being watched and controlled. Our perfect life here is being held hostage too. He narrowed his gaze, sensing the limitations placed upon them. While I understand why they're doing this, protecting one's assets is important after all, I can't ignore what it is. The Otherworlders, Ray and his classmates, were no longer individuals with desires and decisions that could freely be expressed. In this world, they existed for a single purpose. Kill the dragons and save the world. Anyone who doesn't comply gets discarded. That realization dawned heavy on Ray's mind.